Hello everyone. I might just wait a couple of minutes while we get a few more people joining the broadcast. If you can hear me, can you please make a comment in the description to let me know that you can hear me loud and clear? Hello everyone. If you can hear me, can you please let me know by typing a comment? Good morning, Tashani. Hi, Justin. Alright, let's get started. So, my name is Shukul Kachwala, and I'm the co-founder and director of High Carb Health, and I'm very excited that you all have decided to join here with me today, because today I want to discuss with you a very important topic that we've been researching and looking into for the last 5 years, and feel like it's really important that people are aware of how to take your health into your own hands. And so what we're going to do today is I want to make this session as interactive as possible. So I want you guys to communicate with me, ask me questions, because I think we'll get the most amount of value out of the session if you have questions and things like that. And it's more than likely that you might not be the only one who has a particular question, so feel free to ask questions as we go through. What I'll do is I'm just going to start off with talking about a few concepts around the body, around how to make sure that you stay healthy. So the first thing I want to do is talk about our defense system or our immune system. And when we talk about how to prevent disease, I'll be talking about how we can go about creating the right conditions in our body to facilitate that. And then I'll just quickly touch on 5 really important lifestyle factors that you need to be looking into to make sure that you can not only heal yourself, so in terms of making sure that we can get our body into a healthy state, but when we are in that healthy state, to also how to maintain our health for the long term. And so there's 5 key lifestyle factors that we need to be aware of if we want to manage that. And it's like a little roadmap. You can quickly pull out your hand and say, which of these lifestyle factors have I been neglecting in my life or in the recent few weeks or months? And it's quite easy to kind of quickly identify that and realize how to correct it. So the first thing I want to talk to you about today is the way we keep our body healthy, the way we create the right conditions in our body. And there's 2 main theories that are out there in the world today around this. Okay, so first is called a germ theory, which was developed by a man called Louis Pasteur. And you may have heard of him if you look at pasteurized milk. It's the whole idea that there are germs and bacteria and viruses out there that are coming in to infect us or make us sick. And I guess this is the main kind of prevailing idea in the world today. And there's another theory which we call the terrain theory or natural hygiene or health science, which talks about the conditions that we keep inside our body, or providing the right conditions to allow our body to protect itself if we are affected by one of these things. So let's quickly touch on germ theory first, and we'll talk about that. So germ theory, created by Louis Pasteur, what it talks about is the fact that there are bacteria, viruses, and germs that are out there that are ready to infect us, and if we get infected by them, we're going to get sick. So this is partly true, but unfortunately, we don't get told the full story when it comes to germ theory, because even Louis Pasteur, at the end of his career, acknowledged that he was not 100% correct. And germ theory is still a theory. It hasn't been proven to be true. And so the main concept behind this is that if you are to come in contact with some kind of germ, that you will get sick. There's no other option. Okay? There's absolutely no option that if you're in contact with this germ, you will be sick. And as we all know, that's in our own experience, that doesn't always happen. You know, we come in contact with people who are sick. We come in contact with people who are not well, but however, we don't get well. How many times have we been in the workplace, someone is sick, we don't get sick? Okay, and it's quite an important thing to understand that your health destiny doesn't rely on what someone else has going on with them. Your health destiny relies on what's going on within you. And so the second theory, which is called the terrain theory, some people call it natural hygiene or health science, is the science of health, okay, relies on the fact that if we are able to create the right conditions within our body, amazingly, you know, it seems like people forget this in recent times. Our body has an immunodefense system which is designed to protect us. But in order to do that, it must be given the right conditions. And if we do not give it the right conditions, then it does not have the energy or the resources to ensure that we can stay healthy if we are in contact with a pathogenic microorganism. And so let me just give you an example of this, okay? And metaphorically, if I was to show you two pools of water, and one pool of water is really dirty, it's got rubbish, it's full of, you know, things like feces and dirt and oil, and looks pretty gross. You wouldn't really want to go into that pool of water because it's just not ideal, okay? The second pool of water is crystal clean, okay? It's crystal clear, you can see the pebbles at the bottom, blue, beautiful looking. Which one do you think is going to attract all the bugs, the flies, the bacteria and things like that, okay? And the same thing happens when you look at your body. If you are focusing on creating a clean internal environment, you are setting yourself up to allow your body to not only heal, but make sure that you create a healthy internal environment to allow your body to defend itself correctly. Okay, so please, if anyone has any questions about this topic, I'd love for you to ask me. And, you know, when we look at the kind of things that create conditions in our body, okay, the kinds of foods that can allow our body to create the conditions that allow for disease, okay, we need to be aware that there are certain foods in our body that do not digest as well as they should, and they can allow for what we call an increase of toxicity in our body. Now, these foods are animal products, meat, dairy, eggs, okay, junk foods that we consume, oils. And when we eat these foods, because they don't digest correctly, they start to rot and putrefy in our bowels, and this releases a toxic, these release toxic byproducts. If you look at the scientific literature, you can see things like endotoxins that are produced in the bowel when meat starts to putrefy, and this releases toxic matter, causes low-grade inflammation, and it basically sets up the beginnings of all disease. And some of the people that are in this conversation have healed from kind of serious autoimmune conditions, and they'll know exactly what I mean by this, when the body starts to create inflammation because of an incorrect internal environment, and that starts to set up the process. So, you know, as I said in the description of this meeting, there's a saying that all disease begins in the gut, and our gut is a very diverse, basically full of diverse microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, and they're all designed to work in concert. If we focus on symbiosis in our gut, that means that our defense system is going to operate at its optimal, okay? But the best way to create dysbiosis in your gut is to eat foods that don't contain any fiber. If we eat foods that don't contain any fiber, we are feeding the types of bacteria in our bowels that we do not want, okay? Because the bacteria that are symbiotic in our bowels are the ones that feed on fiber and or what we call microbiota accessible carbohydrates. When they do that, they produce short-chain fatty acids in our bowel, and these short-chain fatty acids, and just an example, butyrate is one of these short-chain fatty acids, are the ones that provide the gut lining to be able to continue to operate at its optimal. So every time we eat a food that doesn't contain fiber, we are basically feeding the types of bacteria in our bowel that we don't want. And the beginning stages of all disease starts from this toxemic overload where the toxicity enters our bloodstream, and from this point it starts to circulate in our bodies, and wherever these toxins circulate in our bloodstream, this is where we experience symptoms. And once we experience symptoms, we can diagnose with some form of disease. So the important thing to understand about disease is the only way we are able to know if someone has a disease is by the fact that we can diagnose certain symptoms that we have. But the symptoms are a byproduct of a previous process called toxemia, which created this environment for those symptoms to happen. And based on our understanding of the body and what we've seen with hundreds of clients over the last 5 or 6 years, is that generally when the body creates symptoms, it is telling you that it wants to heal. And it's telling you that it's trying to heal itself from an environment that is, I guess, not the type of ideal environment that we want in our bodies. Okay, so all disease begins in the gut technically, because that's where this toxic environment begins from. This is where we create imbalance in our gut microbiome, and by doing that, we're setting ourselves up long term to create issues in our bodies. Okay, so I guess guys, what I would like you guys to do, I've got a good 20-25 people here. Do you have any questions around how to prevent disease, how to create this right environment? Because I want to interact with you guys. Please, if you want to ask me any questions, this is a good time to do so. Otherwise, I'll keep talking, and I'll get into some of these lifestyle factors that are really important to maintain, to not only to allow healing of the body, but also to maintain your health in the long run. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, please start to ask me. That'll be really cool. The 5 lifestyle factors that are really important. Okay, so this is based on our observations. These are the most important things you can look at in terms of maintaining your health. The first lifestyle factor is food. So let's just go through all 5 of them to start off with. Food, water, sleep, exercise, and your state of mind. Okay, the amount of stress that you put yourself under. So if we start with food. Food is an important aspect of making sure that you are healthy. And this sounds logical, but I guess it's not as well kind of understood as we would like. Eating a healthy, whole foods, plant-based diet will create the right conditions for your body, okay, to be healthy. Food can either create the right conditions for the body to heal itself, or it can create the right conditions to create disease in the body. And as I talked to you already about the types of foods that allow for the body to create disease, we're talking about animal proteins, meat, dairy, eggs, fish, oils, junk foods, overly refined foods. These are the kind of foods that the body isn't designed to deal with. We're not able to process these foods as well as we'd like, and that obviously creates these conditions that we kind of notice in our bodies over time. And obviously we mainly deal with people who have what the medical community considers autoimmune conditions, but we try to actually explain to people what's causing the disease in the first place is the fact that our diet and lifestyle was incorrect, and by creating these incorrect conditions, our body has created conditions for these diseases. Okay. Okay. So we've got a few questions specifically around foods. Hi Robin, how are you doing? Nice to see you here. What are the healing foods? Okay, that's a really, really good question. Okay, because one of the most important concepts that we would like people to understand is that food only creates conditions for healing. So a huge concept to really get your head around is the fact that the body heals itself if you give it the right conditions. Okay, so technically food doesn't heal you, but it provides the right conditions for healing to take place. You know, and I'll give you an example. If I get a cut on my hand, I'm not going to specifically look to eat certain foods to heal it. All I'm going to do is provide the right conditions for healing to happen. So I'm going to keep that wound clean and I'm going to leave it alone. And the same thing happens for the inside of our body. We want to try and keep the inside of our body clean and try and leave it alone. So the best foods to heal are whole plant foods. And in our experience, the most easy to digest food to allow the most amount of energy for healing are fruits. So soft fruits with a lot of soluble fiber that are going to pass through the digestive tract and are as easy to digest as possible. If we're eating these kind of foods regularly, then we're going to create the best conditions for our body to heal. Obviously, if you're looking at specific conditions, there are different requirements. Like someone who's got ulcerative colitis may need to follow a different type of dietary pattern than someone who has diabetes, for example, because, you know, when the colon's inflamed, you have to be careful about the different types of foods or fibers that you put in there. However, in most situations, eating a whole food plant-based diet that's low in fat and is going to give you really, a really good result. So thank you for that question. Munch, what are the initial steps to be weaning off meds which you've been off for a few years? Munch, look, I'm not a doctor. I wish I could answer that question for you, but I'm not qualified to give you that advice. I would suggest speaking to your doctor about the best way to do that. Most of our clients will ideally wean off their meds in consultation with their doctors, and as their blood reports show improvement, they tend to get the green light to come off the medications as time goes on. So sorry, I wish I could answer that for you. Arvind asks a question: any fiber-rich foods to avoid? Theoretically, no. If I would recommend a book to you, Arvind, called Fiber Fueled by Dr. Will Belkovitz, and that kind of really explains to you why fiber is so important. Now, if you have a condition where there's inflammation in the bowel, you may want to look at avoiding certain fibers initially, okay? And the types of fibers or the types of foods that I would say that you would want to avoid initially are, the harsher, kind of rougher fibers. So you'd be looking at things like raw leafy greens, raw vegetables. You just want to be avoiding that because you don't want anything that could scrape through the intestinal lining and cause you discomfort. Other types of foods that you might want to avoid initially are foods that are really high in fat or more difficult to digest. Things like nuts and seeds while your gut's inflamed. But if you're not having inflammation in the bowel, then I think it's just important to eat a wide variety of whole plant foods. Keep the fat levels low, and we generally recommend less than 10% of total calories coming from fat. So a really low fat diet, not a no fat diet. It's important to realize this is not a no fat diet. This is an adequate fat diet. It's not a low protein diet. It's a adequate protein diet. Okay, but it is a diet that's high in whole plant foods, which means it's automatically high in carbohydrates as well. So thank you for your question, Arvind. I hope you're well. I haven't spoken to you for a while, so hi. Matt Johnson has a question: is it important to get a small amount of omega-3 and 6 in the diet? Good question, Matt. There's a lot of information out there around omega-3 and taking supplements and things like that. We don't recommend supplementation for omega-3s. We don't think the evidence is strong enough to recommend that. We believe that if you're eating a sufficient amount of calories from whole plant foods, you will get all of the omegas that you need. The key thing with omega-3 and omega-6 is to make sure that your ratio is correct. So you don't want to eat too much omega-6 because that makes the conversion of omega-3 harder. So, what most people do these days is they have omega-3 in their diet, but their omega-6 ratio is so much higher. I think it's 20 or 30 to 1, where it should be around about 2 to 1. So we're way out of whack when it comes to the amount of omega-6 that we have in our diet. And the major reason for that is the amount of oils that we consume. in our diet, and also the foods that are high in omega-6, like meats, and that are, I guess, they're just totally skewing this whole idea completely. So I guess if we don't really focus too much on omega-3, omega-6, because we know we're keeping our ratio right, as long as you're eating a wide range of whole plant foods, you're going to be fine. I guess the types of foods that you'd be looking for if you're healing from a bowel condition, you'd want to be focusing on mainly squashes, which are very high in omega-3, because some of the other foods that are high in omega-3 might be harder to digest. And if you've got a digestive health problem, there are issues with absorption. Okay, so if your bowel's inflamed, there's going to be issues with absorption of certain nutrients. So if you've got digestive problems, there's no point trying to eat complicated foods that have certain nutrients, because you may not be able to absorb the nutrition from them until your bowel heals. So the best thing to do is actually try and heal your body first, and then look at expanding your diet from there. So we don't really focus on omega-3, but thanks for your question, Matt. Hi again, Robin. How about blended leafy greens? If you're trying to heal, I think, Robin, you'd be more interested in people healing from bowel conditions. I think it's better to have blended cooked leafy greens if you're trying to heal your bowel. The main reason for that is that when you cook the greens, it removes some of the oxalates, and you will find that it's easier to digest those greens. So better to do that, okay, instead of raw leafy greens. Caitlin has a question: how important is food combining? Okay, so this is a very good question, because there's not much research done on food combining. We do recommend certain types of food combining, especially if you've got a digestive health condition, but the research is limited on this. So I think if your bowel is strong enough, you don't really need to focus on it as much as you may need to do if you've got a condition with digestion. But I guess it's a tricky one to really explain, because I don't have a huge amount of evidence to explain the pros and cons of food combining. I think the main benefit may be that when you have a digestive health condition, then eating foods in combinations, so more water-rich foods first, to allow them to pass through your digestive system faster, so food doesn't kind of counteract with itself, might be the best thing. But maybe that's something you can ask me offline. Arvind, is it okay to take soaked nuts? It is okay. It really depends. I couldn't tell you that 100%. It really depends on how the condition of your body is before I can give you any personalized advice on this kind of platform. Rahul, hi Rahul. What is the best source of protein? Okay, that's a very good question. This is something that's there's a huge amount of misinformation around protein. So protein is made up of 20 different amino acids. So what you want to be focusing on, Rahul, is making sure you get all the essential amino acids in your diet. Okay, so there's 20 amino acids that make up a complete protein. We only need 8 or 9 of them, depending on who you talk to, from our food, and the rest of them are produced by the body. So what will happen is when you eat these amino acids, the body will then take the amino acids that you eat from the food, which are essential, and it will also take the amino acids that we produce inside our body, and it will put them together to form complete protein chains. And so realistically, as long as you're eating enough calories, Rahul, you don't even have to think about protein. It's not even a consideration that needs to be made. For example, a potato or a banana has all the 8 or 9 essential amino acids that your body needs. So aim for around 2 to 2,500 calories a day, and don't even think about protein, because it's not something that's a consideration. Okay. If you want to talk to me a bit more about that offline, I can discuss it with you further. But really, protein is the way we should be looking at diet is not in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We should be thinking about eating food. And the ideal type of food is whole plant foods. The important thing to also understand is that all proteins are made by plants. Okay, so proteins are made by plants, and then when the animal consumes the plant, it also has the protein. So if we are consuming animals to get our protein, we're getting a recycled source of secondhand protein. And then, and we're getting it in complete protein, we're getting complete proteins, which then the body has to break down, separate them into amino acids, and then put them back together again. So it's a much more energy intensive process, not ideal for a body. And then we've also got the other issues that come with eating animal proteins, like the endotoxins that are produced in our bowel, the trimethylamine oxide that's linked to heart disease, and the saturated fat, the cholesterol that all comes in that package that we really want to avoid if we want to stay healthy. Caitlin has a question: is juicing a good idea for IBD to give the bowel a rest, or should one not focus on having juice meals as it removes the fiber? Good question. It can be a good idea. It really depends on your situation. If you're underweight, you don't want to be juicing too much. And you don't want to be juicing exclusively for long periods of time, because yes, it does take the fiber away, and the fiber is very important for your bowel health. So it can be a tool you can use, but you'd want to make sure that someone's supervising that process for you, so you're not doing it for too long, or you're not having issues, microbiome issues in the long term for that as well. Is coconut sugar okay to add on top of smoothies or on top of fruit? Hey Matt, to be honest, you shouldn't really have to, but if it makes it easier for you to eat the healthy foods, to have a little bit, I wouldn't be saying eating huge amounts of it, maybe 1 or 2 spoons a day. If it makes it easier for you to eat the fruit, then sure. But it's not something that you need to focus on a huge amount, because there's not significant nutrition in that food, and it is processed. So you'd want to focus mainly on the fruit. But if it was down to the fact that, okay, I can't eat this fruit because I don't really enjoy the taste of it, but if I add a little bit of coconut sugar, I'll be able to eat that, then that's probably not a bad idea. Robin votes for no sugar. Yeah, look, ideally we don't have any sugar, right? But sometimes, it's just like salt. If a little bit of salt makes it easier for you to eat your fruit, then by all means, as long as it doesn't make up a big part of your calories, then you're not doing too much damage for that. Another question: how do you make butyrate to create short-chain fatty acids? Someone told me I need to eat butter. Well, there's very little evidence, Robin, that eating butter relates to the creation of short-chain fatty acids in your bowel, because that butter, because there's no fiber, there's very little chance of it entering your colon. So most of that fat's going to get absorbed in your small intestine. So I don't know. I've not seen much evidence that says that eating butter is good for your gut bacteria. But if you do want to create butyrate or any other short-chain fatty acids that are important, and you want a foolproof way, so you absolutely 100% know that you're going to create these short-chain fatty acids in your bowel, then eating foods that have fiber are the best. Okay, that's just, there's no real, I guess, no real debate around that, unless you haven't read a lot of the scientific literature, unfortunately. Munge: is it good to incorporate intermittent fasting, or would elemental diets be more beneficial to get the body into a healed condition? Okay, so intermittent fasting, theoretically intermittent fasting is a great idea. Okay, however, the application of intermittent fasting is not always done well by people. And the main reason for that is because if you force yourself into a very short window of eating, then you're going to put yourself in a position where you're not necessarily going to eat enough calories. That means you can have issues with nutrition, and then that also means that you can create situations where there are cravings created and things like that. So if you're new to changing your diet and lifestyle, then I wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting unless you really have a good idea of how to eat sufficient calories in that short space of time. But yes, in theory, it's brilliant, and giving your digestion a rest for a period of time is great. But I think, to be honest, if you're following a whole food plant-based diet, you don't have to specifically think about intermittent fasting. The other issue with intermittent fasting is that it kind of puts you into puts these rules around eating, which can lead to eating, bad habits and bad relationship with food, which I don't like either. So I just prefer, if you're hungry, eat. I think that's a more sensible way of looking at it than putting rules and regulations around, okay, if it's not this time, I can't eat anything. I think if you're eating healthy food, you can eat whenever you feel like it. Ali says, what's the best diet to stop mucus? Fruits are the best food to stop mucus, but realistically, you don't want to stop mucus, because when the mucus is coming out, that means toxins are coming out. You're actually healing your body. So it's like a double-edged sword there. Would you prefer the mucus inside your body or outside? Okay. But the best foods that aren't going to create any more mucus in your body are the fruits or the soft starches. But fruits are the best. That's an easy answer. Robin asks, do we have to jump rope like your brother to get well? So if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see that Shamiz loves to do jump rope, and he's pretty good at it. I'm a bit jealous too, Robin, to be honest. But no, the answer's no. Alright, so if I think that's all the questions we've had for now. So if we kind of move on, how much time have I got left? Oh, it's only half an hour. I've still got another half an hour. So if we move on for the other aspects, I think we covered some very good questions about diet. So thank you all very much for those. Moving on to hydration. So food is the first lifestyle problem. The second one is hydration. Jessica, I see your question. I'll get to that in a second. Hydration or water intake is also very, very important when you are considering healing or staying healthy. So, why is it important to stay hydrated? Well, everything in your body works better when you're hydrated. For example, if you're going to go for a run, you're not going to do that dehydrated because your muscles aren't going to work as well as you want them to. If you're doing some study or you're sitting an exam, you're not going to go into that situation dehydrated because your brain won't operate as well as you want it to. Okay, so for that same reason, you want to make sure that you drink water prior to eating, and you drink a sufficient amount of water to make sure that you're well hydrated, so that, and I recommend about 3 liters a day, so that your digestive system works as well as you want it to. Okay, if you want your digestive system to operate optimally, you don't want to be dehydrated before you start eating. Okay, so you want to be drinking. Make sure you drink your water. Jessica asks the best advice on how to heal from UC when you're underweight. Well, the first thing you got to try and do is to eat as much as you can. The key thing to realize that when you're healing the body is going through a catabolic state. Okay, what I mean by catabolic state means the body is in a state of cell destruction. It wants to destroy the toxic and damaged cells that are in your body so that it can finish the healing process. It's like going through a spring clean. Okay, if you're cleaning your whole entire house, you're going to first clean the whole house before you start putting things back in place. Okay, so the body's going to do the same thing. When it's healing, the body goes through a catabolic state, which means you are going to lose weight during the healing phase. If you're not sure if what you're going through is a safe level of weight loss or your symptoms are safe, then it's best to get some guidance. But you have to be aware that it's an important part of your healing process. The weight loss is part of the healing. Once the body removes the toxicity and repairs any damage that's been created in the body, weight will stabilize or bottom out, and then the body will shift into what we call an anabolic state, which is growth, and your weight will start coming back up as you heal. So I can't really give you a 100% answer on that one, Jessica, because I don't know everything about your condition at the moment, but I guess hopefully that helps you a little bit. Why milk kefir is not recommended, as many people got benefit from it. Okay, I've done a video on YouTube about this, Sankit, around the evidence around why milk is a bad or unhealthy food. Dairy, I mean, if you want to try kefir from water kefir, you can give that a go if you want the probiotics, but why would you want to put milk from a cow into your body? This is something I've never understood. Well, actually, sorry, I have understood because I used to drink milk all the time. But it's a real conditioning that happens. We're we're not a cow. So first of all, we're not designed for the mammary secretions of another mammal. We're not babies. So as a mammal, once we've weaned from our mother, we have no requirement for dairy or the mammary secretions from an animal, let alone humans, especially not cows. Okay, so I mean, fermented foods can be beneficial, but putting milk from a cow and then fermenting some kefir grains in there, I don't think that's a solution for long-term health. Okay, so reasons we don't want to consume milk or dairy, okay? First of all, you've got hormones, growth hormones, such as insulin like growth factor 1. This doesn't matter if the milk is organic or not, okay? This is a naturally occurring hormone, is designed to grow a baby calf into a very, very big animal very fast. It also grows abnormal cells in our body very fast and is one of the main factors for cancer growth in our body. So milk is something we really want to try and avoid. Then we've got the fact that most dairy products, unless they're organic, are pumped full of antibiotics and other artificial hormones as well, which we don't want in our bodies. If you're looking at raw milk, again, check out that video. I might just post that video shortly into the description for you, Sanket, so you can watch that in your own time. But realistically, most raw dairy is contaminated with fecal bacteria. The only way you get good bacteria into dairy is by the fact that you're getting feces from the cow's gut into that milk. So I think maybe people get some short-term benefit from it, but I think overall it's more like a symptom relief situation. You're not healing your gut by doing this because you're not creating a long-term solution. People need to rely on this milk kefir to create a, I guess, symbiotic microbiome. And if you can't do that naturally just with your normal diet, and you've got to keep adding probiotics into your body, how are you creating, how are you, having that bacterial situation or that the good bacteria consistently in your bowel? Because you're in a state of dysbiosis because you're eating an improper diet, and then you have to keep continuing to put probiotics into your body to try and correct that. I don't think that's a good solution. I think you need to actually, first of all, think about creating symbiosis in your gut by eating high fiber foods that are going to feed your symbiotic or good bacteria, and then create those short chain fatty acids that you want that are going to help heal the gut lining. Okay, so I hope that answered that question. Let me just post this video in the comments section now so that I don't forget. Okay. Stephanie has a question for hydration. Are you saying 3 liters? Are you saying 3 liters plus all the fruit and veg which contains a high amount of water? Are teas included in the water amount? That's a really good question. Yes, ideally I am saying that. Ideally you want to be consuming 3 liters over and above all the fruit and veg that you have. I'll preface that by mentioning the fact that if it's colder, you probably don't need as much. If it's hotter, you might need a little bit more. So, if you're around about 2.5 to 3 liters a day, I'd say theoretically teas can be included in the water amount, but I'd prefer to have just plain water, and then teas can be on top of that. Okay. Arvind has a question. So, yes, that's a good question, Arvind. Sorry to know about Dr. David Klein. Just curious, do you know what happened? Yes, it's a very sad loss, and it's very unfortunate that David Klein's passed on. I don't know anything more than what the family has stated. So if you go to his Facebook page, you'll see a statement from his family. I think you may have seen that. That's as much as I know. It seems like a very unfortunate event. Seems like there was a complication due to a medical event. But that's all I know at this point in time. Ali, you meant mucus that comes from ulcers that cause UC, not the regular mucus. There's no real difference. There's mucus in your body or there's not. So if it's coming out of the ulcer It means the body's creating a wound to be able to push that mucus out into your bowel for evacuation. So it's still trying to get the mucus out. It's trying to heal. So if you're getting mucus in your bowel, the body's trying to heal and remove toxins. And if you don't get the mucus out, it stays in your body, and it's harder to heal you. Okay. Okay. So that's hydration. Hydration is very important. The third lifestyle factor is sleep. So sleep is the most, I guess, ignored lifestyle factor that I see in my clients. So sleep is crucial if you want to try and heal. I'll explain to you why sleep is such an important aspect of your healing journey. The only time when your body creates more energy than what it uses is when you sleep. So if you're not getting sufficient amount of sleep at night, your body is not able to go through a cleansing and detoxification. It's not able to remove toxins as effectively as it would if you got more sleep. So, and I can tell you, if you follow us on Instagram, my wife and I recently had a baby. He's just about 1 month old, and I have not been getting sufficient sleep, and I can tell the difference in my body when I don't get as much sleep as I would normally get or like to get. So what we recommend is ideally, if you're healing, you want to be looking at as close to 10 hours in bed as possible. Otherwise, you want to be looking at between 8 and 10 hours a night in bed, eyes closed. Okay. The way the body creates energy is that there are electrical signals sent through your nervous system from the brain. This happens all the time, 24/7. But when you're awake, you're using more energy than what the body can create. So over time, you get tired, and that's why we need to sleep. We then recharge our batteries. I can't say for sure, but I have a feeling that's where the term comes from. We recharge our batteries overnight, and then you wake up fresh, and your body's done a whole lot of cleansing overnight, and it allows your body to start fresh in the morning. So sleep is really, really important. Matt has a question. For my job, I have to do 4 weeks of night shift per year. Will this make me flare when I do it, even if I get 8 hours of sleep during the day? Matt, what's important is what happens the majority of the time. So 4 weeks a year, I don't think that's going to create a problem. I've had people who work night shift and they don't necessarily flare up. Remember, sleep is only one of the conditions, so you want to be making sure that as many of those 5 conditions that we talk about are in place. So if you can't get sleep optimal, you better make sure all those other 4 lifestyle factors are as close to bang on ideal as you can, to make sure that you're not creating that extra toxicity in your body that's happening because you can't sleep. It does make a difference if you sleep during the day compared to night, because the body works on a circadian rhythm. So you will never get the same type of deep sleep or rest during the day as you would at night. So it's important to think about that as well. But if it's only 4 weeks a year, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. But again, it really depends, like how stressed is that making you? Are you being able to maintain your diet as well as you want to? Are you drinking enough water during that time? Are you able to get any exercise in? Okay, so all these things are important. The 4th lifestyle factor is exercise. And so exercise is something that you need to be focused on as a lifestyle factor to keep you healthy. When you're healing, you only do exercise if you have enough energy for it. So if you don't have energy to exercise, you need to sleep. And if you're trying to heal your body from a serious condition, you don't want to do anything that's too strenuous. You don't want to put extra stress or take extra energy away from your healing journey. So exercise is good, and it's a very important lifestyle factor. And when your body's in a good place, by all means, do exercise, push yourself. But when you're trying to heal, you want to just do gentle things like, going for a walk, yoga, stretching, those kind of things, to move your body, to move your lymphatic system. That's the main benefit of exercise. You move your lymphatic system where a lot of the toxins are held, and that helps you heal as well, and also keep you clean on the inside too. As I said, you want to create those right conditions to allow your body to protect itself, and doing a reasonable amount of exercise will do that for you. And before I get to the last one, Is it a good idea to start an immunosuppressant if the doctor recommends when you're on a healing diet? Sorry, Sanket, I can't give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor, so you'll need to discuss with the doctor, and then you got to look into the pros and cons, the risks versus the benefits, and you have to make your own decision as to whether you want to put that medication into your body or not. I think that's just true for everybody for any type of medication. Always look at the risks versus the benefits, and if you think the benefits outweigh the risks, then by all means take the medication. If you don't think the benefits outweigh the risks, then it's probably better not to do it. But again, you have to think about your choices. Ben has a question: is spirulina, chlorella, and other green powders good for gut health? I think they're good for health. I don't think you really have to focus on them. We don't really focus a lot on green powders for our clients. Our clients get most of their greens through juicing. So, I mean, yes, if you're in a state of really bad malnutrition and you need to get minerals because you can't digest particular foods, then putting green powders into your smoothies can be beneficial. But, I mean, I don't know enough about your condition to tell you whether that would be good for you or not. In general, I don't think it's a necessary thing to make sure you have good health. Like, if you don't have green powders, will you have good gut health? Absolutely, you can. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's like a must-have, but it can be a beneficial supplement if you're unable to digest certain foods that like the green leafy vegetables that some people might be able to digest. So good question, thanks Ben. The final lifestyle factor that I want to discuss with you around staying healthy is your top 2 inches. Okay, so it's your mindset or the stress that's created in our life. So we live in an environment which is very unnatural and creates a lot of extra stress in our lives. And you know, especially if you're with me in Melbourne right now, I can see a few people from Melbourne here. We're under a lot of pressure because we cannot leave our house. So again, you got stress from that situation as well. So you know, there's things that are going to happen in our lives that we cannot control. And so what we try and teach our clients to do is how to stay calm and in a state of peace, even when things are happening that you have no control over. Like when you're trying to heal, there's certain situations, there's certain things that your body is going to do that you don't have control over. So a really important thing to understand is how do we manage our emotions so that we aren't always reacting in a way that we don't want to react in. Okay, so just to preface that, we're all human, so we're going to have emotions. All emotions are okay. And so what we try and teach our clients is how to not entangle ourselves into that emotion when it's past. So not continue to tell stories about it and keep dwelling on it. And you know, kind of what we want to try and do is focus on what's happening right now in our lives. You know, how do we stay focused on the present moment, and how do we stay focused on what we're doing right now to give ourselves the best conditions for the future. And so if we are looking to manage our stress, it's a really important lifestyle factor because you know, there's been research done, and Harvard has a really good article, and Harvard University has a very good article on this. When our body's in a state of stress, or when our mind's in a state of stress, our body doesn't digest food in the way that we want it to. Okay, so you might have heard of this, you know, when people are stressed, they get headaches. When people are stressed, they feel it in their gut. When people are stressed, you know, all sorts of things happen, and people just, oh, you know, it's all in your mind. It's not necessarily all in your mind, okay? The body does create situations physically when you're under stress. So finding a way to manage that is really important. You know, I can't go through all those things with you right now because it'll take me too long. But the best thing we can do is focus on how we want to feel. Focus on, you know, allowing ourselves to create those right conditions by keeping our peace. It's not about trying to not get angry. Anger is an okay emotion. Happiness is an okay. Joy is an okay emotion. Frustration is an okay emotion. But once it's past, let's focus on what's happening now instead of living in the past or worrying about the future. Let's just focus on what's happening now and what we can do right now. Because what we can do right now is what's going to create our future conditions or our future situations. So managing that as best as we can is going to really help us, manage ourselves and keep our bodies in the right place. So those 5 lifestyle factors, those key tips there for you guys are the things that we really try and teach all our clients to maintain their health in the long term. Just if you're ever not feeling well, how's my diet looking? Am I eating things that are not optimal? Am I eating meat, dairy, eggs, fish, cheese, oils, refined foods, junk foods? Am I eating those foods? If you are eating those foods, you are creating conditions that are setting you up for disease, and we want to avoid that. So focus on whole plant foods and try and stay away from those foods that are going to create disease conditions in your body. And it's really important, like when you think about disease, I purposely split up those 2 words in the description of this live session. Your body is either in a state of ease or in a state of dis-ease, okay? So if we're eating the wrong types of food, we're putting ourselves into a state of dis-ease where we feel those symptoms, and the only way to undo that is to eat the foods that are going to create conditions to put ourselves back into ease, okay? So, grab hand food, water. Am I drinking enough water? Have I been hydrated enough? Okay? Am I sleeping enough? So many people do not sleep enough, okay? And the important thing with sleep is you want to go to sleep as early as you can. The hours of sleep before you get before midnight are the deepest sleep, the most restful sleep you're going to get. So focus on early nights as much as you can. Then you've got the exercise. So if you're feeling got enough energy, make sure you get outside, get some fresh air, get some sun on your skin, and move your body. Okay. If you're healing, don't do anything too strenuous. That's gonna cause you to get tired. And find ways to manage your stress, whether that be meditation. You will learn intuitively. Reflect on your emotions, reflect on your reactions to certain situations, and try and work out what's going on within you to try and help you with that. Stephanie has a question about sleep. Can I please give you the highlights? I think Stephanie, if you want to, I'm going to save this video when I finish it, so you can always go back and watch it again. But the key thing with sleep is sleep is the only time where you create energy in the body, or more energy than what you use. If you're trying to heal, try and get 10 hours of time in bed every night, and try and aim for early nights, because that's going to help your body with its healing as much as possible. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Okay, so that's all the information I wanted to cover off. I hope that was useful. When it comes to being sick, I really want you guys to be aware that your health is in your hands. Do not give your power to somebody else. Okay, do not give your power to somebody else. Do not think that something from outside is coming to affect you, because if you create the right conditions in your body will protect itself. Your defense or immune system will be able to protect itself. Okay, and so what's really important from this aspect is to understand that how do we create the right conditions in our body, and that's what I wanted to really explain to you. Is you look at your entire lifestyle. You look at the food that you're eating. You look at all the other aspects of your lifestyle. If you do that, you're going to create conditions in your body. We want to have that clean internal environment. We don't want to have an unhealthy or toxic internal environment that allows for bacteria and viruses and things like that to just have a party inside our bodies. We don't want to do that. We want to give our bodies the right conditions for health. And if you do that, you're giving yourself the best possible condition, or the best possible chance to stay healthy. And I guess that's what I made that my life's purpose, to try and teach people this. So thank you all. If there's any last questions before I finish the session, please ask them. Otherwise, I hope you all have a lovely day. And I know it's a very challenging time, so I just wanted to give people some I guess, some information on, things you can do, because we're not getting a huge amount of information from I guess, the media and our health authorities around what we can do to stay healthy. It's all around, at the moment, the fear, and we're all living in fear. I don't think fear can impact your immunodefense system, so we shouldn't live in a state of fear. I think it's really important that we realize that we have more control than we know about our health, and making sure that we do these things gives us the best possible opportunity. It's not a foolproof approach by any means. It doesn't mean that you'll never get sick, but you look at the percentages. You want to play the percentages. You want to give yourself every possible opportunity to be healthy and maintain your health, and try and, if something does happen, you give yourself, your bodies and your defense system, the best possible opportunity to not get affected by that. Okay. Awesome. Well, I guess, as I said, thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate that you do. If you have any other questions, follow us on the Facebook page. If you haven't hit the like button on the Facebook page, please do that. If you haven't followed us on Instagram or YouTube, please subscribe to those platforms again. If anybody who's been watching this wants a more personalized consultation, if you go to a website, there's a free 30-minute consultation. If you fill in the health survey on the website, there's a free 30-minute consultation, and I'll actually put that in the comment section here as well. So if anybody wants to do that, you're more than welcome to do that, and Shamiz will have a chat to you about how we can help you further. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I'm sure we'll do it again. If you have any other topics that you want to discuss for future live sessions, please ask us. Send us a message privately or on this thread, and I'll be more than happy. Hi Lizzie, hi Elizabeth. Nice to see you from Perth, all the way from Perth. Nice to see you here. Yeah, so I guess that's it for today, guys. Stay healthy. Make sure you eat plants, and lots of them. Take care, everyone.